Hi all. In this video, we'll talk about the introduction part of big data. What is a big data? So why people are having this as a buzzword in the recent days? Like everyone is learning and working on big data with different concepts. So what exactly the big data actually? So big data is nothing but the representation of complex and huge data sets instead of regular small data processing in the smaller databases. That means it's a big data. That means huge data processing. Big data is nothing but data which has a larger value, a larger complex length or larger volume. Okay, so it's a technology or it's a database or what it is. Big data is nothing other than that. It's a nothing but a data which has a larger value. Okay, before we get into this talking about big data, I just want to tell you from where we are getting this much of data. Okay, we are saying a big data, it's nothing but a data. We are getting it from different sources with huge amount of volume, right? So from where we are getting this different kind of data. So if you look at the different ways of generating data, we will get sensors. This is one more area where we will get huge data, and also we will get data from CC cameras. From here also we will get bulk data, and also we will get bulk data from social networks, like we are using Facebooks, Twitters, LinkedIn. Earlier we used to call Orkut. So these are the different social networks where we are generating big data, huge amount of data we are generating in seconds, milliseconds. We are loading and uploading MBs of data, MBs of photos, and MBs of videos and audios we are sharing in the social networks. So this is one more area where we are generating big data. And also we have online shoppings, right? In the online shoppings, we are adding into cart and we are purchasing some items and adding into the cart, remove from the cart, and you are pausing different items to different layers. This way we are generating more and more data in the online shoppings also. And also we have airlines. So we have airlines systems where we are generating different data like weather environments and timings, different airplanes and flight timings and environment capturing, and different kind of data it is generated from different airlines. So there also we are generating huge amount of data. So, and also we have NCDC, another area where we are generating bulk data. So NCDC is nothing but National Cooperative Development Corporate, National Cooperative Development Corporation. So where it has planning and promoting and financing program for production and the processing, marketing and storage, export kind of things for the food stuff and other things. Okay, so these are the main areas where we are getting lump sum of data, huge amount of data. So how we are going to process this much of data? I will tell you one more example. So if you look at 100% of data, if you look at this 100% of data, 90% of data has been generated within like 4 to 6 years span, right? If you take 100% of data, 90% of data has been generated in the 6 years span. Are you agree with that? Because in the earlier days, we don't have social networks, we don't have CC cameras, we don't have sensors, but we have, I agree, we have, but we don't have this frequency or this many number of branches on this many number of areas with these features, right? If you look at the 20 years back or 1990 something, So where in this year, hard disk capacity we used to purchase it with 1 GB to 20 GB. Agree? In the 1990s, we used to purchase hard disk size is 1 GB to 20 GB, and RAM capacity is 64 to 128 MB. And also processor, we used to get 10 kbps. But now, if you look at now in the configuration system, we used to get hard disk is 1 terabyte and RAM is 4 GB to 168 GB, and processor speed we used to get 100 Mbps. So this is what the configuration change we have earlier to now. That means this much of higher configuration systems we are using because of uploading capacity. Uploading of data is very huge. For an example, I just tell you about some cold storage. Example, this will give you a brief idea like how it is going to functioning. If you take cold storage, before I get into this cold storage example, suppose if you want to store some food for a larger time, what you will do, use to store in a refrigerator, right? So how long you will store that food items in the refrigerator? 1 week, 2 weeks max. That's it. But if you want to store more than 2 weeks and 3 weeks, more than a month, what you will do? You have another approach you have to look at, right? That is what cold storage. So if you want to store more than a period of the refrigerator is storing, we used to select cold storage where we keep all the food items for longer time, right? That is the way of keeping data in some more systems instead of putting into your local systems. So if you want to keep that particular kind of solution or environment, we need bigger configurations. Okay, so a cold storage or cold store is a larger refrigerator room or building designed for a storage of goods in an environment with some temperature outdoor configurations. Product needing a refrigerator include the fruits and vegetables. Like that, they will be having some different configuration in the cold storage. That way, it is storing your food items for longer time. So what you will do is we need to use to contact the data centers to store data like organizations. If you want to store this much of huge data, we need to contact large organizations, IBM and AMS and Amsterdam data centers and Google, etc. in the earlier days. We used to contact them to store this much of data. But this data, how you are processing? So that is what computation. Computation or computing is nothing but the program to execute some logic to process the data on big data environment. So cloud computing is nothing but processing or executing a program or some logic to process specific data on big data on cloud is nothing but cloud computing. Okay. So what are all the big data attributes we have? So I can define big data with some attributes. I can say it is, I can say like VQ or VQ something, three views I can say. One is volume. So, and another thing is, I can say velocity. And the third one I can say variety. So these three are the attributes of big data. So what is a volume here? Volume is nothing but the length of data, like that means bytes, kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, petabytes, gigabytes, something. The length of data, it may be kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, or I can say terabytes, petabytes, gigabytes, and gigabytes. And coming to the velocity, velocity is nothing but how we are processing the huge data which was stored on the cloud or another environment. This means how we are going to process the huge data stored on cloud. Okay, and coming to the hues variety, last one is variety is nothing but we have different kind of data structures, semi-structured, unstructured, and structured. Okay, so what variety of data we are going to store? We have different variety of data, structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. So these variety of data we have, and these kind of data we are storing in the big data. So structured is nothing but normal SQL table and Oracle tables where we have a table columns and rows, that is structured one. And semi-structured is nothing but JSON and XML and CSV files where we have some semi-structured data. And unstructured data, that means video files and scanned images and audio files. All variety of data it is going to be stored on big data. So I can define big data is nothing but storing of huge data or storing of complex data on cloud with different varieties. That means structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. Okay. So IBM has defined big data with the above three characters. That's what we have to look at this. And coming to this, next one, I can tell you an example. I have 500 GB hard disk. How much data I can be stored? Less than 500 GB, right? No. So 300 GB we can store? Yes. 400 GB? Yes. 600 GB? No, I can't because my space is only 500 GB because it's beyond my size. So 300 have been stored. Now want to process the data in the hard disk. To make process of data, we need to use Hadoop, where the place this Hadoop has been introduced. To process the huge data, we need to adopt Hadoop tool. Okay. Also, another example, I'm going to deliver a project within 6 months. And it is the effort for the single developer I have given. Like I have a requirement. I told the client that I need 6 months time to deliver the product, and it has given for a single developer. So if you can split the task and share it to other developers, like 6 developers, then what happened? It can be reduced and delivered within 1 or 2 months, right? That is what the main goal of this big data. So how we are going to process and get the data with less time to fulfill this? We used to use Hadoop. Okay. So I can tell you another example. You have a patient table where initially you have 1,000 patients or 10,000 patients. Now your application DB is set up at mission 1 and it is working fine for fetching and retrieval and saving of your thing. So while you processing the table to find that particular patient, like patient ID 100, then it is faster. Yes, it is faster. But meantime, over the course of period, another 500 patients has been registered and exported from other sources or something else into your this DB. Then how the performance is being? Definitely, it is not that much faster because you are using the same program and same logic and same thing you are applying on your mission. The configuration is same, but the data has been increased, right? So where this Hadoop comes into the picture to process the data on big data at cloud. So, so I can tell you some basic definition of Hadoop, and later we'll talk what is this Hadoop. Okay. So what is this basically Hadoop? This is the data processing tool we have. This is where we have problem and go for a tool Hadoop, as I told you, like how to process use data in less time, nothing but this thing. So Google has a Google search engine where we can search results, right? So when you search some results, it uses to show top 10 to 15 results based on the SEO, search engine optimization, in the display, right? So when you search something on the Google search, it used to display only 10 to 15 pages, top 10 to 15 pages. But how they will manage? So Google has spent almost 10 to 13 years since 1990 to 2013 or 2003, and they have introduced GFS system to store data. So Google has done research in 1990 to 2003, and they define GFS storage system. GFS is nothing but Google file system. So Google has done already on this because of they have a lot of stuff they are going to be stored, and they are going to be fetching and from the database and displaying on the UI. So they have defined their own file system, Google file system, and they started storing up data. Later, they introduced MapReduce on 2004. So in 2004, okay, they introduced MapReduce. Okay, so but they have the introduced MapReduce, but they have not done implementation. But they put on some paper, some guidelines, but not progressed for the development. So later, Yahoo has taken the initiative. Okay, they come into the picture. So they have taken this paper and they started implementing. So we can see a top 10 results in Yahoo also. Like when you search something on the Yahoo search, so they display only 10 to 15 lines in the first page. Now Yahoo has taken this MapReduce guidelines and started implementation. I think they started implementation in 2006 to 2007. So they introduced another file system called HDFS. HDFS is nothing but Hadoop file system. This is what the file system. Hadoop file system. So this has been introduced in 2006 to 2007. Later 2007 and 2018, they introduced MapReduce. 2007 to 2008, they have introduced again this MapReduce. This is the concept of minimizing, optimizing the process. Okay, so based on Google guidelines, they have introduced HDFS and MapReduce in 2008 something by Yahoo, and they combining these two components and they called as Hadoop. Okay, so this is what the the process where the Hadoop has been introduced, and the initial phase where it has been introduced by whom and when. Okay, so when you talk about this Hadoop, it takes another couple of times, so this is not right time to talk about because this session only for big data. So we'll talk about this more on this Hadoop in later sessions. So far we only concentrating on big data. So this big data only for storing of big data and cloud. Okay, I hope you understand the concept of big data and the requirement of Hadoop. So we'll look at this Hadoop in the next sessions. So thanks for listening this session, and please subscribe this YouTube channel for more videos on big data. Thank you.